Every November, South Korea stages its grand capitalist ritual, the Sunung, the grueling 8-hour college entrance exam that, for millions of students, may determine the direction of their entire lives. Flights are grounded to reduce noise. Police escorts rush late students to testing centers. Parents pray outside school gates with the solemn intensity of people awaiting a national verdict. The college entrance exam in South Korea is a public performance of meritocratic anxiety, where an entire generation is asked to compress its future into a few answer sheets. The pressure is immense, the competition is cutthroat, and for all its flaws, the system still claims, at least in principle, to reward individual effort and academic achievement. A few hundred miles north, in the tranquil, ideologically pure embrace of the Kimdom, another university entrance exam takes place every December. It also tests mathematics, physics, chemistry, literature, and other subjects that, in normal countries, might suggest an interest in knowledge. But here, the most important questions are not necessarily about science, nor about how to apply science to improve society. The exam asks whether you have properly memorized the sacred lives, immortal wisdom, and suspiciously flawless childhoods of the Kim family. Because in your future workplace, loyalty is not a personality trait, but your core competency. A North Korean student may not fully understand chemistry, but he must understand that every molecule in the universe is grateful to the supreme leader. Jokes aside, in this episode, we uncover North Korea's higher education system. How does a North Korean student get into college? What subjects are tested? Which universities are considered the most prestigious? What majors are desirable? And what kind of future does each one promise? On paper, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea proudly advertises a merit-based, state-funded higher education system. Propaganda officers tell us that colleges exist to create an army of intellectuals and to build a socialist paradise through knowledge, discipline, and collective effort. It is a beautiful story. Every student, regardless of background, can study hard, prove loyalty, enter university, receive a diploma, and march proudly into the bright future of socialism. In reality, North Korean higher education is a brutal sorting machine. It quietly decides who is allowed to learn, who is allowed to rise, who gets access to prestige, who is sent into obscurity, and who may stand somewhere near the top of the social hierarchy. But before we dig into the subject, a brief, heartfelt tribute to our loyal members. Your unwavering support and financial dedication make our research and video production possible. Your intellectual curiosity fuels our journey into the heart of the absurd, allowing us to peel back the layers of propaganda and reveal the stark realities beneath. Thank you, sincerely. Now, comrades, buckle up, let's dig in.
Officials and teachers in the field of education are working hard to bring about a substantial progress in the development of education. The Kim University of Education is conducting the work for raising the students' practical ability to meet its features as a university of education.
Before we jump to the exam preparation, here is a more innocent question. What kind of future are North Korean students trying to choose? In most countries, university is not sold as education institution, but marketed as a place of self-discovery and life adventure. You leave home, meet strange people, change your major twice, and eventually come out with a diploma, some debt, and a slight chance for good employment. In the Kimdom, college carries a different kind of promise. Getting into a university is one of the few moments in life when you can change your, and perhaps your offspring's fate, to wear a white coat and work in a biolab instead of wearing a military uniform and working in a random factory. And to fulfill your dream, you must choose a school wisely and understand what exactly you are choosing from clearly. Yes, we call North Korean higher education institutions colleges and universities. And these institutions do have campuses and professors, but their overall structure is markedly different from that of the West and bears the unmistakable imprint of the old Soviet model. Instead of letting regional universities grow into giant academic supermarkets, North Korea maintains a smaller number of prestigious, comprehensive institutions at the top, and a much wider network of specialized colleges and professional schools beneath them. It means that there will be no medical programs in a university of technology and no foreign language programs in an arts college. It's basically a socialist hierarchy, and you must have a clear idea of what you want to learn before submitting your application. At the highest level, there are central universities, institutions directly managed or closely supervised at the national level. These are the schools with the greatest prestige, the strongest political value, and the best chance of turning a diploma into a desirable posting later. The Kim Il-sung General University is the country's flagship comprehensive university. It is the rare institution that still resembles the conventional idea of a broad university, offering law, economics, humanities, natural sciences, and graduate study with a roughly 16,000 student body. In a country of more than 25 million people, the general admission rate is like 1 in 1,000. And an average provincial middle school would be so lucky to have a single student being granted admission. It is the holy grail of the DPRK higher ed, where ambitious families dream of sending children who might someday enter ministries, policy institutes, foreign affairs, or the administrative class that gets to sit in the offices and dictate to the people below. Slightly below it, there is the Kim Il-sung University of Technology, the country's technological engine room. Named after North Korea's first Minister of Industry, it is one of the country's most prestigious technical institutions, with around 10,000 students, 18 departments, and about 80 programs. It trains engineers, electronics specialists, maths and computer experts who own IMO and IOI awards, and researchers in extremely normal academic fields such as nuclear reactors, nuclear electronics, nuclear fuel, and nuclear engineering. Some graduates will be sent to the Yongbyon Nuclear Research Center or the country's other finest nuclear facilities. You know, the usual career fair destinations. Outsiders sometimes call it the MIT of North Korea, which is fair, except MIT students are generally not expected to worship the big belly supreme leader. You must understand that prestige is about being irreplaceably useful to the state. Kim Il-sung University produces political and intellectual elites, and nobody can replace their family backgrounds. And Kim Il-sung produces technical elites, and no others replace their technical skills. Both are difficult to enter, both are concentrated in Pyongyang, and both place you much closer to a comfortable future. Then comes the next layer of elite central specialized universities, each with its own pathway into a desirable corner of the state. There is the Pyongyang University of Foreign Studies, a 5-year university specializing in language education. Its graduates commonly go into diplomacy, trade, translation, or the intelligence world. It is the place where the Kimdom takes a small number of politically reliable teenagers and teaches them English, Chinese, Russian, Japanese, and other dangerous foreign languages, so they can, not to explore the world and absorb foreign knowledge, but serve the government while resisting the moral hazards of foreign influence. The hierarchy remains. The foreign language departments inside Kim Il-sung University are considered more elite, and its graduates are more likely to be the ambassadors who make decisions, while the University of Foreign Studies trains the working-level diplomats, interpreters, and intelligence officers who actually keep the machinery moving. Then there is Pyongyang Medical University, which was once the Department of Medical Science at Kim Il-sung University, and was separated from it in 1948. It's actually a good choice, not exactly because of the payroll, but more because of your social status. Trained in the best medical school, you will certainly be deployed in the urban area. Since the medical service is always scarce, all your high school pals and even local party cadres will line up in front of your office with bags of precious gifts for arranging cataract surgeries for their fathers-in-law. We have the teacher training universities, such as Kim Hyung-jik University of Education, which train the next generation of brainwashers for the kids. If you like visual arts, go ahead and submit your portfolio to the Pyongyang University of Fine Arts. This prestigious art institution had given rise to many painters, sculptors, designers, and masters of Juche aesthetics. Its graduates have included people's artists, merited artists, and winners of the Kim Il-sung Prize. Likewise, if you prefer beats and rhythm, Pyongyang University of Music and Dance is the talent pipeline for performers, musicians, and dancers. But, just being honest, art students in North Korea are getting trained absurdly early, so you'd better start preparing your kid's career since kindergarten. Before college, the Republic's finest musicians typically follow a 2-year kindergarten course, a 4-year primary course, and a 3-year preparatory course, plus many shorter special programs. Finally, we have local universities and technical colleges, usually administered by provincial or local authorities, designed to train the kinds of workers that the region or a certain industry needs. These are the lower bottom of the socialist higher ed hierarchy. Regardless of how specific the subject is, agriculture, fisheries, telecommunications, chemical industry, mining, metallurgy, railways, machinery, construction, light industry, or even traditional medicine, North Korea has a school for it. This is where the Soviet-style structure becomes really clear, as the state views education as a direct feeder system for the country's different sectors. Take Wonsan Agricultural University. It offers 5-year programs in farming, agricultural management, veterinary science, animal husbandry, agricultural biology, and fruit farming. Its campus includes practice farms, one of which is a greenhouse where Kim Jong-il once stood, now marked with a red triangle, so future generations may properly contemplate the exact location where agriculture received immortal guidance. Or consider Huichon University of Telecommunications, where you can earn a PhD in electrical engineering. Or, if your parents work in a Vinalon factory in Hamhung, it would be easier for you to get into the Hamhung University of Chemical Industry. If your parents are, sadly and regrettably, coal miners, there is still the Chongjin Mine and Metal University reserved for you. So, your destiny has been determined when you decided on your college and college major. It is said that the Kimdom has more than 300 colleges and universities, but the number is misleading if you imagine 300 large general universities with football teams and 200 stupid fraternities. An average college has an enrollment of around 2,000 to 5,000 students, and every student is a state-selected talent for the future of socialist construction. By 1987, the country reported having about 301,000 students in 4 to 6-year universities, plus another 220,000 in 2 to 3-year specialized schools. And the system has gradually expanded to have 600,000 college students currently enrolled. Before any student reaches lecture halls, They must first survive the gatekeeping process. There is an entrance exam, just like all other normal countries.
My name is Kimdom, and I'm the student of Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. I'm 17, and I just graduated from Pyongyang Middle School No. 1. And I'm studying English. I'm a freshman of this university. When I was first came here, as you can see, the area is big, but there are a few buildings here, so it was really unfamiliar for me for the first time. And when I first saw the foreign professors, I never saw many professors before, so maybe I was nervous a little.
Let us now assume that you came from a loyal household, successfully navigated the labyrinthine ideological studies of the middle school, and naturally passed the political screening. You now have to process the admission, the ostensible gateway to higher learning, the glorious moment when your academic prowess is supposedly put to the test, and you are invited to experience the comforting fiction of meritocracy. On paper, the North Korean university entrance process looks almost respectable. It is a two-phase system, beginning with a national preliminary exam and ending with a final exam administered by the university itself. But around those two exams sits a far more important structure of school nominations, travel permissions, and backroom bargaining. The official drama begins around October, before any exam papers appear. Your high school, together with the local party apparatus and youth organization, begins deciding who is even worthy of being recommended for university. Your grades matter, yes. Same for your records of conduct and your political background. But the most important thing is whether your parents have the correct kind of personal relationships and negotiable cash. A North Korean student must first be nominated by a local college recommendation committee, and that nomination then needs approval at the county and provincial levels. In other words, before the university has a chance to reject you, several layers of local authority are kindly invited to reject you first. Specifically, this is how it works. The North Korean Ministry of Education operates on a strict, centrally controlled quota system. The ministry does not merely decide how many students each university will accept, but dictates, with absolute precision, exactly how many admission slots are allocated to each individual high school across the entire country. The slots are allocated to institutions, not to individual students. So the real competition, the true determinants of who gains admission to Kim Il-sung University, happen far from the sterile environment of the examination hall. They unfold in the shadowy corridors of power, in hushed conversations, and often through the exchange of illicit payments. Even if you are a certified genius with perfect full scores in every academic subject, you can only apply for the limited number of slots that your specific school has been granted. High schools in Pyongyang, particularly those attended by the children of the elite, receive a disproportionately high number of slots for the most prestigious universities. Rural schools, in contrast, receive very few, if any, slots for top-tier institutions. The allocation process is opaque, arbitrary, and deeply intertwined with the country's pervasive system of corruption. As graduation approaches each year, an unspoken yet fierce info war breaks out among parents. The official allocation of university slots is supposed to be confidential to prevent public outcry and maintain the supposed fairness. But in reality, confidentiality is just a price tag for those with sufficient resources and the right connections. The school can literally auction the best college slots for the highest bidders, and poor households can do nothing about it. So when the info war finishes, the bribery war begins. Recent reports testified that the bribery rates for university admission have been alarmingly standardized, reflecting a deeply entrenched system of the underground education industry. Securing a slot at a vocational college, a relatively lower-tier institution, might cost a family between $40 and $140. While these figures seem modest by international standards, they represent a significant, often insurmountable fortune for the average North Korean family, whose monthly income might be only a few bucks. A spot at a provincial university or medical school commands a higher price, typically several hundred US. The most coveted spots at Kim Il-sung University require tens of thousands of US, an unimaginable sum only accessible to the highest echelons of the party elite or the wealthiest merchants. The corruption flows upward. It is a systemic pyramid scheme of academic access, where educational opportunities are bought and sold, layers through layers. This institutionalized corruption ensures that the best opportunities are funneled towards the children of the elite, further solidifying their position at the top of the social hierarchy. The rural students and those from poorer families are systematically, brutally shut out. Even the brightest, most academically gifted students in provincial towns are often barred from the exam room, knowing full well that their families cannot afford the exorbitant bribes required to secure a slot, even if they were to pass with flying colours. If you survive that stage, you are granted the right to sit the national preliminary exam, usually held in December. This is the part that resembles any conventional college entrance test. Students are tested on 6 very ordinary, deeply unromantic subjects: revolutionary history, Korean language and literature, mathematics, English, chemistry, and physics. The national exam is like a stage of national quality control. It is the only fair part that the state can point proudly at the test papers and say, "Look, everyone competes on the same papers." What they don't tell you is that roughly 25% of graduating seniors are nominated to the exam room. The rest are being sent away to vocational schools, collective farms, or coal mines. Besides, please don't mistake your nomination as a pass. The national exam is still intense and competitive. Only the top 20% of the nominated test takers are permitted to pass the preliminary test and advance to the next round. A massive, disproportionate chunk of the exam is dedicated to revolutionary history. Students must recall precise dates, exact quotes, and specific historical details regarding the lives and speeches of the Kims. Even if a student is a genius in mathematics, failing to perfectly regurgitate state ideology will result in a failing grade. With the right connection and a perfect memory in Kim Jong-un's latest speech, the next phase comes in January. Examinees who are headed to a university in another city must prepare for the trip. Remember, North Korean citizens are not allowed to travel between regions freely and need official travel documents to leave their area of residence. Provincial students must go through the bureaucracy and get the paperwork done. Finally, in February, comes the individual university exam. Students arrive at the designated campus, perhaps Kim Il-sung University, Pyongyang Medical University, or some less glamorous but still life-changing agricultural college. There, the university conducts its own final round of written tests, oral evaluations, and interviews. If you pass, you are admitted. If you fail, you return home, where adulthood is waiting with its 2 most familiar North Korean career counselors: military conscription and factory assignment. Sadly, there are no backup options. Your nomination means a single designated slot at one specific university. If a student is nominated for the chemistry department at Kim Il-sung University, they are legally bound to that choice. No one can change it, and no one can use the ticket at any other institution. If you fail, you fail. This second round is much more subjective and flexible than the national one. They typically span 3 to 4 days, and every single student must pass a mandatory physical fitness examination, plus an intense medical screening. There will be less multiple choices, but more open-ended questions asking about your insights and reasoning. The oral section could be terrifying. Students must stand before a panel of 3 to 5 professors and verbally answer abstract logic, math, or ideological questions on the spot. This introduces immense pressure, as any hesitation or verbal misstep can lead to immediate failure. The university rejection rate depends on the ratio between available seats and applicants. For elite institutions like Kim Il-sung University, there are routinely 2 to 3 heavily vetted applicants competing for every single seat. Less desirable majors at provincial schools are much easier for certain. If a student fails the university level, they cannot just go home and study for next year like a Jae Suseng in South Korea. The day their rejection letter arrives, their name is transferred to the state, labor, and military mobilization departments. They are immediately funneled into mandatory military service. The only exception is for graduates of hyper-elite first middle schools of different provinces. Even if the Kim Il-sung University rejects them, they are permitted to reapply to lower-tier provincial universities. Don't worry too much about the failure. The good news is, being sent to a factory or an army unit is not a permanent goodbye to your college dream. In fact, nearly half of the students sitting in regular North Korean college classrooms are actually 23 to 26-year-old military veterans, not 18-year-old seniors. Every year, military commanders are given their own massive batches of university recommendation tickets to distribute to outstanding, loyal soldiers. And considering you're now a fully grown army man, the entrance exam would be less academically rigorous. Otherwise, if being sent to farms or factories, the country's night school system generously provides you with another opportunity to grow. Adult labourers who went straight from high school into industrial work their mandatory day shifts and then attend 3 to 4 hours of university-level engineering or agricultural classes at night. This part-time study can last a long time, like 5 to 6 years, but eventually the factory college will award a degree to you. According to some demographic reports, industrial tracks account for up to 40% of the country's total higher education degree holders. Overall, the DPRK college admission is strangely unique. It is competitive, but not always purely academic. It is hierarchical, but diverse enough to absorb loyal young talents throughout the country. Yes, the process is grindingly hard. Not just scores, but so many factors determine your college admission. But now, comrades, welcome to college, a new chapter of your life.
Many units in Pyongyang City encourage the working people in school, youth, and children to take an active part in swimming to build up their body in July and August, the month of maritime physical culture. Kim Il-sung University organizes swimming lectures and extracurricular sports activities more briskly so that all the students can master more than one swimming stroke and improve their swimming technique.
Congratulations, comrade. You survived the quotas, the recommendation committees, the revolutionary trivia, the travel permit, the oral examination, and the deeply educational experience of watching your parents do the monetary magic trick. You are now officially a North Korean university student. But what awaits you within these walls is not higher education that you learned from K-dramas. It is a continuation, and indeed an intensification, of the ideological conditioning that has defined your life since childhood. The university, far from being a sanctuary of independent thought, is the ultimate ideological factory, designed to produce capable, loyal subjects. Anyhow, the campus is real. This is not a cardboard propaganda village with 3 fake classrooms and a smiling tour guide. Kim Il-sung University, for example, has a scenic 15-hectare campus in Pyongyang's Taesong district. The university features a mix of towering that gives a vibe of Juche core, where Soviet-influenced neoclassical academic blocks beautifully coexist with massive, sleek high-rises built during the Kim Jong-un era. The student body isn't large by international standards, but some facilities and utilities are internationally standard. The university features a massive physical library holding over 2 million books. Adjacent to it is a highly modernized, multi-floor e-library containing 1,000 computer stations, where the students and faculty can watch Kim Jong-un's latest speech for free. This flagship national university also boasts its premier sports infrastructure, including a state-of-the-art gymnasium and a high-end swimming complex featuring a 50-meter Olympic pool, saunas, and recreational water slides. I don't know how you think, but having a sauna as a sports facility sounds pretty novel and cool to me. When the semester starts, you will be placed into one of those massive residence halls. For your context, dormitory number 16 alone holds 8,000 students. Rooms are strictly practical, typically featuring bunk beds, uniform study desks, collective wardrobes, and shared recreational rooms equipped with table tennis tables to maintain your competitiveness. Every single student must wear a strict, state-provided university uniform consisting of a dark suit jacket, red tie, and a mandatory lapel pin bearing the portraits of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il over their hearts. The student life is wonderful. It's the country's best school, and each of your classmates comes from a prestigious household. It means that people here all have their little hobbies or abilities. Some can do the 100-meter butterfly, some are trilingual, some have the smuggled latest Chinese techs, and some have musical, vocal, or theatrical talents and join the university's art troupes. The only downside of your campus life might be the mobilized labor. If the students can do the menial labor for free, why bother to hire any janitor? Your elite background still cannot exempt you from the service, though they might assign you to lighter duties like cleaning monuments or the great leaders' statues. Regardless of your chosen major, whether you are delving into the complexities of nuclear physics, mastering the nuances of Germanic languages, or studying the intricacies of agricultural science, you are subjected to a mandatory, inescapable curriculum of ideology courses. Subjects like philosophy of the Juche idea, history of the revolution, and Juche political economy are not electives but core requirements, consuming a significant portion of your academic time. These courses are designed not to encourage critical thinking or diverse perspectives, but to instill an unshakable belief in the superiority of Juche ideology and the infallibility of the Kim leadership. Every academic discipline is twisted to serve the party's narrative, with even scientific theories often reinterpreted to illustrate the ingenuity of the Juche philosophy. The indoctrination is relentless, woven into the very fabric of daily university life. It begins each day, not with a lecture or a laboratory session, but with a mandatory 15-minute self-study session. During this time, students are required to read ideological content aloud, often from party newspapers or the collected works of the Kims, reinforcing the party line and internalizing the official narrative. These are followed by party policy and refinement sessions, where current events, both domestic and international, are interpreted strictly through the lens of state propaganda. Saturdays are entirely dedicated to political education sessions, further cementing the ideological framework and leaving little time for independent thinking or entertainment. Teachers, far from being independent academics pursuing truth, are essentially ideological functionaries. They meet weekly with propaganda officers to ensure their lessons are perfectly aligned with the latest party directives and to report on any perceived ideological deviations among their students. The classroom is a panopticon, where every word and action is judged in terms of loyalty. If you fail to memorize political material correctly or exhibit any signs of ideological wavering, immediate punishment comes. This can range from public criticism and self-criticism sessions, humiliating rituals where students must confess their misbehaviors before their peers and denounce others, to physical penalties, and in severe cases, expulsion. Expulsion here carries devastating, lifelong consequences, often resulting in a permanent demotion in social status and assignment to the most grueling manual labor. The university, therefore, is not designed to foster independent thought, intellectual curiosity, or academic freedom. Its primary purpose is to ensure that the state's most educated citizens are also its most thoroughly conditioned, incapable of conceiving a reality outside the party's dictates. One of the most revealing examples is Kim Gum-hyuk, a child of Pyongyang's elite who entered Kim Il-sung University's English department in 2009 and was being prepared for a future in diplomacy. This was not some disgruntled provincial teenager assigned to a freezing technical college in a northern province. The system had selected the boy and marked him as an important man. To get into the best department of the country's best school, Kim received private tutoring for 2 years. His family hired 2 live-in tutors, twin brothers, one from Kim Il-sung University and the other from Kim Chek University of Technology, to live in his home, eat there, and effectively stay with him around the clock. Even on the walk to school, the tutor walked beside him, drilling vocabulary and reviewing math mistakes from the previous day. When the entrance test came, it was a 3-day exam held in a freezing February inside the university's indoor gymnasium with no heating. He's from Pyongyang, and thus he brought his parents with him. But during the exam, parents could only see students up to a metal gate. After 6 hours per day of written and oral exams, he finished a 1,600-meter run fitness test and was finally admitted. In 2010, when he was only 19, Kim was sent to Beijing Language and Culture University, which was an extraordinary privilege. Foreign study is not given to random students with wanderlust. The precious slot and stipend are reserved for those considered talented, trustworthy, and useful enough to be briefly exposed to the outside world, instead of becoming another North Korean hillbilly. But, very unfortunate for the regime, Beijing had the internet. For the first time, Kim could search freely. He discovered the history he had never been taught, the mass starvation of the arduous march, the existence of political prison camps, the public executions, and the stories of North Koreans risking their lives to flee the country. He said that he did not even know that so many North Koreans had escaped, or that they existed as a visible community in the South. Outside information gradually led him to realize that the Kims he had wanted to serve were not heroes, but dictators. This period of foreign study eventually persuaded him to defect. On December 17, 2011, the dear leader was forever gone. In Beijing, Kim and several fellow students attended the official mourning ceremony at the North Korean embassy, then slipped away to a cocktail bar only a few blocks away and held a private celebration. It was a political blasphemy committed by elite children who knew exactly what they were doing. Crackdown came quickly. In early 2012, North Korean security officers arrived in China to tighten control over overseas students during the unstable succession period. One member of Kim's circle was summoned after being caught with a Korean translation of Plato's Republic. Kim Gum-hyuk realized that the net was tightening around him as well. On February 8, 2012, the North Korean embassy summoned him, officially over a visa issue. But he knew it as a trap. Once he entered the embassy, he would be sent back to the north and possibly executed as a traitor. He fled his dormitory, sought help to reach South Korea, and eventually escaped with assistance from a Korean pastor in China. Kim's escape was dramatic, but the fear behind it was not personal. When the educated young people compare official truth with reality, it could be the Kim dynasty's doomsday. Whenever the regime perceives any threat, the authoritarian nature of its higher ed system becomes glaringly obvious. In 2011, as the Arab Spring uprising swept across the Middle East, toppling entrenched dictatorships and sparking widespread youth-led unrest, the North Korean government reacted with its signature paranoia and swift action. Fearing similar contagion, it abruptly closed all universities across the country and dispatched the students en masse to work in construction and agriculture, to purify the youngsters' minds through hard work. The regime understood, from historical precedent, that universities can be incubators of revolutionary thought and collective action, places where young minds might gather to question authority. So the regime killed any rebellious potential from the wombs. More recently, in 2024, North Korea issued a sweeping directive recalling its students studying overseas, primarily in China and Russia, back to Pyongyang for mandatory political indoctrination sessions. This move underscored the regime's deep-seated distrust of any education not tightly controlled and bound by its ideology. Even exposure to the relatively more open, though still authoritarian, societies of China and Russia was deemed a significant risk, necessitating a recalibration of loyalty and a forceful reinforcement of Juche principles before these students could be trusted to reintegrate into North Korean society. The state views foreign ideas as a virus, and Juche indoctrination as the only cure. Thus, life inside a North Korean university is a profound paradox. The academic studies and student life are genuinely not bad. But everything is always embedded within an overarching, suffocating ideological framework. The degree you earn is almost secondary to the loyalty it certifies. The university is not a place to expand the mind, to challenge assumptions, or to seek truth, but a crucible for forging the ideal socialist citizen, an unquestioning servant of the Kim dynasty, ready to deploy their skills in service of the state's objectives, and never, ever ask why.
More than 60 graduates of universities and colleges in Pyongyang City volunteered to work at the construction site of a new street in the Sopo area. Addressing the meeting for the volunteers, Speaker said it is a proud tradition of the Korean young people that they have answered the call of the times and the country with practice.
Eventually, the university years, with their relentless ideological drills and specialized academic pursuits, come to an end. You have graduated as a proud product of the North Korean education system, certified in both your chosen field and your unwavering loyalty to the Kim dynasty. In most countries, graduation marks a transition into adulthood, a period of self-determination where you choose your career, apply for jobs, and decide where you want to live. The world, for many, becomes an oyster of possibilities. In the Kimdom, such choices are an illusion, a capitalist fantasy crushed by the socialist iron fist. The state, with infinite wisdom, decides your occupation based on your past records, and sometimes your assigned post sticks with you for a lifetime. This process is known as betchi, or deployment, and it is the ultimate expression of the state's power over the individual. This final assignment dictates the trajectory of your entire adult life. It determines whether you will live in the relative comfort and prestige of Pyongyang like a real upper echelon, or be dispatched to a remote, decaying industrial town of the provinces, being wasted as a small cog of the machine. And it is more than the quality of your life, but also your children's prospects, which kinds of schools they would attend, and what a future awaits them. However, if we focus on the bright side, the good thing is that, since North Korea has neither a job market nor open recruitments, college grads never need to worry about finding a job or potential unemployment. Predictably, the job assignment process is riddled with corruption. Wealthy families, particularly those who have amassed fortunes through black market trade, pay exorbitant bribes to secure comfortable postings in major cities for their children, ensuring they avoid the harsh realities of provincial life. Those without connections, without the financial means to influence the system, are sent to the least desirable locations and the most arduous jobs: the mines, the remote schools, or even military units in undesirable locations. A defector named Cho Chung-hui gives us a painfully clear example of what this looks like in real life. Cho was born into a family of ethnic Koreans repatriated from Japan, a background that marked him as politically suspicious from the start. He was a top student, but his family background blocked him from the elite universities he wanted. He eventually entered a veterinary college, since people of his caste were quietly steered away from the prestige tracks and toward agriculture, machinery, and other politically harmless fields. After graduation, Cho was sent into 3 years of farm labor, then placed into a livestock-related government office in his home region of Pyeongseong. He later explained that graduates with good family backgrounds could be handpicked by the Central Party and placed into better institutions, while those with inferior political pedigrees were usually returned to their home provinces as on-site technicians or local functionaries. People's grades mattered, but apparently people's birth mattered more. He worked extra hard to escape his destiny. He joined the party. He built seniority. And after about 4 years, a better position finally opened in his office. By every ordinary standard, Cho should have received it. Instead, the job went to a younger man who had entered the workplace after him, had less experience, but possessed the far more valuable North Korean qualification of better bloodlines and an uncle in the Central Party. With hereditary aristocracy, meritocracy comes only second. In the Kimdom, you must reckon on the fact that the university gives you a specialization, but your post is entirely decided by the state. With that said, being a college graduate in North Korea carries very substantial advantages, just not in the simple liberal capitalist sense of higher degree, higher salary. A college graduate is officially treated as a future cadre, meaning someone eligible for specialist, administrative, technical, or managerial work. The college route, as hard as it sounds, can help you to escape physical labor and at least secure a white-collar or service sector job. The North Korean university system, as we have seen, is a masterclass in social engineering. It is a sorting machine that operates with chilling efficiency, ensuring that the elite remain elite, the loyal remain loyal, while maintaining the image of a socialist paradise, where every citizen contributes equally to the collective good and remains morally intact. It is a system designed to secure the benefits of the wealthy and the powerful, and to crush any spark of independent thought, and to channel all human potential into the service of the Kim dynasty. After this episode, perhaps the North Korean higher education system is not as backward as you think. But when a nation systematically stifles individual ambition, punishes creativity, and rewards only unquestioning obedience, it only leads to losses of innovation and a deep, pervasive cynicism that permeates every level of society. When the brightest minds are forced into roles dictated by politics rather than talent, when the most ambitious are forced to bribe their way into opportunity, the entire nation loses its future. So, can higher education in the Kimdom really change one's fate? Yes and no. It can spare a young person from years in a mine, a factory, or a freezing construction brigade. Your degree leads you to an office desk instead of a shovel, a Pyongyang apartment instead of a provincial 8-man dormitory, a more respectable marriage, a better ration channel, and perhaps even the possibility that one's children will begin life a little closer to the center than their parents did. In a country where the state assigns your future, education is one of the few ladders that still reaches upward. However, the system does not allow a person to choose a fate. At best, it lets them bargain for a better version of the fate assigned by their birth. North Korea is a cage. People can climb upward, but few can bear the cost of defection. That is the paradox of North Korean higher education. The regime needs universities to produce engineers, doctors, diplomats, and developers of weapons. But every mind it sharpens is also a mind that may one day notice the obvious, that the country's greatest shortage is not food, electricity, or foreign currency, but freedom. So yes, college in North Korea can change your life, but it cannot make you free. In this sense, ignorance is really bliss.